Today on What Went Wrong, I'm going to tell you the main #1 secret that allows me to get shit done fast and has helped me make over 40 feature films. Hi, I'm Brent Mauser, and I've made over 40 feature films. And the main #1 reason I was able to do that was because from production to post-production, I was the one responsible for finishing the films. This isn't a slight against my great producers. I'm not taking anything away from them. If it weren't for them, I'd have nowhere, no one, and nothing to shoot. They dominated pre-production and made my job in production and post-production that much easier. The people who made the props, got the costumes, found locations, I couldn't have done it without them. They were the gurus of pre-production, and they did a great job, and they worked miracles with no money. But after pre-production, it rested in my hands. I was the cameraman, the director, the editor, the sound mixer, the visual effects guy. Granted, that's what went wrong in a lot of the films. I had to carry a lot of the load, maybe too much. However, when you're making a movie with no money, that's how it's going to be. Most every professional will curse the name of anyone who utters the phrase, "We'll fix it in post." Well, that's fine and dandy when you have a budget. But when you're doing it all yourself and you have cast and crew waiting around to shoot the next scene, you have to keep moving. If the set isn't perfect, you don't have the time or personnel to make the set work. If the lighting isn't perfect, but you have 6 more scenes to shoot before the sun goes down, well, then you're gonna have to fix it in post. That's why if you wanna make movies with no money, then you have to learn everything. From audio mixing and audition to visual effects and After Effects and color grading in Premiere. Because if you know how to do all of that, then you know what you can and can't do in post. If you know that your blank firing guns are blasting the muzzle flash out of the top of the gun and not the front, but you know how you can erase it and put it where it needs to be, then you don't have to spend more on front firing blank pistols. If the reflector or boom mic got into the edge of one of the shots, but you know you can just crop in a bit, then you can push on and you don't have to reshoot the scene you just shot. If you're editing the scene in your head and it plays out in only 2 close-ups and a wide, then you don't need to spend another 30 minutes getting more takes that you know you're not going to use. Should you fix it in post? Well, that depends. The people who say you shouldn't fix it in post are forgetting that most everything in film today is fixed in post, from set extensions to bullet hits. Sure, maybe it's to save money or time or for safety, but superhero suits are now made in post. Hate to break it to you, but that's fixing it in post. Films like the original Thing were great because of the animatronics and special effects created on set. But now you just do all the work in post. Why? To save time, to save money, or because you have greater control over the movement and look of those characters and effects in post-production. Me, I'd do everything practically if I could, but I don't have any money. And the most expensive and nerve-wracking part of making a film is production, because you have cast and crew giving you their time and their energy, and you don't want them waiting around or working any longer than they have to. Another thing to consider is that when you do it all yourself, the only person you have to rely on is yourself. This means you have to be devoted to your project. You have to pass up some dates, watching Netflix every night, and you've got to spend every waking hour you have working on your film. But if you want to get it done with no money, then you're going to have to. Because if you're not paying your cast and crew, or you're paying them very little, then they have no skin in the game. They won't have the same level of devotion as you. Now, you may have some people that are very, very devoted and loyal, but it won't be as much as you, the filmmaker who's thrown your life savings in, or devoting your spare 40 hours a week outside of your job, or your schooling. If you're paying them $100 or so, other responsibilities will always take priority. If you're paying your editor $100, or if you're not paying them at all, then every time they get lazy or something else pops up, then that $100 isn't motivation enough to keep them on track. But you have the drive and the motivation to sit down at your computer after work or after the gym and pound away at your next script, or the color grading, or the audio mixing for another 4 hours until you have to go to bed. Making a movie with no money is your responsibility, And the more you can handle yourself, the more you'll get done. And you won't have anyone to blame but yourself if the film doesn't get done. And what better motivator is there than that? Like what you see on notsosane.com and want to see your video on our site? Well, send us a link. And if we like your no-budget film and think it'll make a great addition to our site, then we'll post it. Your film will be available to anyone with a subscription, but your fans will also be able to rent or buy your film without having to join the site. The best part about it? You get 100% of all rental and sales revenue minus the credit card and processing fees charged by the transaction companies. Just allow us to include your film on our subscription-based service. Want an even better chance at getting your video on our site? Then include a 5 to 10 minute mini documentary about how you made your movie for no money. Just send an email to submission@notsosane.com and include a link to your completed no-budget film. Do not send us your script or incomplete film. For the time being, we're not accepting scripts or incomplete film. So get your film on notsosane.com and join the website made for no-budget filmmakers and their fans.